right, again, hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all here. Welcome to the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center Leadership Summit. We're glad that you could join us on this day of professional learning meant to take family school community partnership to the next level. My name is Max Zhang, and I will be this session's moderator. This session is session 14, who we are, what we do, and how we engage all families. If you have any general questions, concerns, or technical issues, please message me privately in the chat. So to ensure that everyone gets the most out of today, we ask that all participants turn off their webcams and microphones. If you have questions for the presenters, please use the chat feature, and I'll be closely monitoring the chat and will pass the questions along throughout the meeting. And you can also join the conversation on Twitter. Be sure to use the hashtag Breakthrough22 to share your thoughts. So now I will introduce to you our presenters today, Tammy Sebastian and Elizabeth Rivero. So they're both with the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities, or also known as OCECD. So I first introduce Tammy, who began her career with OCECD in September 2011. She's very active as the coalition's statewide program coordinator, providing guidance, information, and trainings to the staff. She coordinates and conducts professional development on current topics and updates and develops new training and materials. She also serves as OCECD's social media coordinator, meeting with staff to train them in this area as a means to broadening their outreach to parents. She researches and learns different types of social media, maintains OCECD's Facebook page, and collaborates with their IT and webmaster to connect the different types of social media with their web page. Tammy previously provided information, training, and support to the families of children with disabilities in the Cuyahoga County. And Tammy has two daughters, one with ADHD and the other with autism, generalized anxiety disorder, and sensory processing disorder. And please feel free to welcome Tammy in the chat. And now I will introduce Elizabeth Rivero, who began with OCECD in August 2021, assisting the Latino community in Southwest Ohio. Born in Cuba, she then lived in Florida for over 20 years before moving to Ohio. Elizabeth graduated from Florida State University with her bachelor's in special education and master's in curriculum and instruction. Elizabeth was a fourth grade teacher in an inclusion setting for 3 years before becoming an instructional support facilitator, providing reading and math services to students based on their IEPs and collaborating with teachers in the implementation and development of IEPs. After school, Elizabeth worked as a registered behavior technician, or RBT, providing individual ABA services, that's applied behaviors analysis services, outside of the school setting to children with various exceptionalities. In 2019, she became a board-certified behavior analyst, also known as BCBA, and worked closely with families in developing and implementing behavior plans to address various needs of each child and their families. Elizabeth currently resides in Greene County with her husband and twin toddlers. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to Tammy and Elizabeth.
Well, thank you, Max. That was a beautiful introduction. And you all might be questioning, why is Elizabeth here from Florida? That probably is your first question, I'm sure. That's the first question we all gave her when she
Certainly
came.
not the wintertime.
Exactly. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for typing in the chat and letting us know who you were. We are so glad to see our family engagement coordinators, our friends from the ESCCO, and parents, absolutely the parents, because that's why we're here. So thank you for coming today to our session. So we are going to be talking about who we are, what we do, and who we are is the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities. And today we're specifically focusing on how we engage all families. And we cannot say and talk about engagement and family engagement without letting you know that Elizabeth and I both are very, in order to engage, we like to keep it very flowy, if you will. So if you have questions and if you want to give comments in the chat, Max has agreed to go ahead and grab those questions and comments, and please feel free to add them as we're going throughout. So with that being said, I'm going to go to a couple of slides past that, and I'm going to go ahead and start off and talk about the mission and the vision of the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities. And from here on out, we are, I do have to say, especially when we're talking about families and parent engagement, we are the acronym police. So we will always say what we are saying before the acronym. But for time purposes, from here on out, we are going to refer to the Ohio Coalition as OCECD. So a primary mission of OCECD is for all children with disabilities to receive a free and appropriate public education. We believe that all children have the right to a meaningful and relevant education. And we believe that all kids with disabilities should be treated with dignity. We have also included, excuse me for 1 second, I'm getting a tickle. I apologize. We also have included in the handouts that you have in the link, there is the OCECD history. And so for those who want to go a little bit deeper dive into our history, we have provided that. So also, as we talk about our primary mission, we believe that every family dynamic is unique, and each family may be in a different part of their journey in the special education process. So in order to support the unique needs of all families, we understand that full participation of some groups. We believe in that fully, and the diversity and full inclusion of their strengths is vital. We work to keep parent participation and engagement accessible to all family dynamics. We understand that the role of a parent can be filled as it can look many different ways. So that is at the forefront of our mission. Elizabeth, is there anything you wanted to add to that
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, just stop me if you want to jump in. So as we talk about that, as you heard in the beginning, we were talking a little bit about the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities. We are the Parent Training Information Center. So there goes that acronym again, PTI. And every state under IDEA, now here I am with another acronym, and most of you, I've seen a lot of professionals, so I know I don't have to tell you that, but I'm going to anyways, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So IDEA 2004, which is the federal law that governs special education, requires each state to have that PTI. And we are the PTI, so the Parent Training and Information Center for Ohio. So as you see, are you guys seeing you probably aren't seeing anything in those boxes, are you?
We are not, at least I'm not.
Okay, now are you seeing?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like I have to fill them in. So I'm doing that right now. There we go. So these are some of the responsibilities of the Parent Training Information Center. So we're going to look at each of these areas from an inclusive lens. The support we provide meets the unique needs of families where they are at, while honoring their diversity and cultural needs. And that looks many different ways, and we will hit those in some of our later slides. We also help to resolve disagreements with the school, and that can look like a lot of times there might be communication, language barriers, those can look like disagreements. However, they can be a result of ineffective or lack of translation. And so, Elizabeth, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything here, because I know this is very important.
Yes, absolutely. I like that you said that communication can sometimes mean a disagreement when it not necessarily would be a disagreement. Overall, we definitely work on the relationships. We definitely want to make sure that relationships are built with the school districts, between parents, and that team effort and teamwork is there definitely through the collaborative approach.
Thank you. And so obtaining appropriate services. And that may look different when we're talking about all families. Obtaining appropriate services is going to look different. We know what is appropriate for one child is not appropriate for every child. And that is basically the core of having an individualized education program. So to better understand their child's disability, that is a lot of times we are helping them to understand more about their child's disability and what that looks like and the educational impact of that. Becoming an active participant, what does that look like? What is an active participant, or the engagement? So we really need to support parents to define what engagement means to them. A lot of times, we throw those words out, meaningful engagement or meaningful participation. But if we don't have the conversation on what meaningful looks like, we're going to have a hard time meeting those needs. So I always tell parents, tell the district, tell the school team what meaningful means to you, because what meaningful is to me is going to be different to what meaningful is for Elizabeth. So have those conversations, communication, like Elizabeth said, having those relationships. Communicate more effectively with the school and related professionals. So preparation for working effectively with the school might look different to meet the diversity for each family. So there might be cultural views on the school system that may, and I see Elizabeth looks like she's probably going to jump in again here, that may have an impact here. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
We'll get into further details in a future slide, but absolutely that's again where that communication piece comes in, because there are a lot of layers when we're working with such a diverse group, that just as each need for each child is unique, each need for that family, that parent is unique. So we want to make sure that that is supported so that they can be active participants.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm sorry if you keep seeing something pop up on my screen. I don't know if you are or aren't, but I'm sorry if you are. And to understand, most importantly, to understand their rights and responsibilities under IDEA. And that is many different ways we provide that through translations, trainings in language and accessing IDEA, connecting with other community resources. And we also understand, and we will hit this in the next slide, we also understand that there's limited resources available to some of our underserved communities. So with that being said, that takes us right into talking about parent centers, and here's a new acronym, the CPRCs. Now, we are aware, I think it looks like we probably have a lot of people from Ohio here, but if we do have people from out of state, currently Ohio does not have a community parent resource center, but we wanted to be mindful that these are national and that they are there and what the differences are with those. So some states have the community parent resource centers, or CPRCs. CPRCs do the same work as the PTIs, but they focus on reaching underserved parents of children with disabilities, such as those living in a specific area in the state, those with low income, or those with limited English proficiency. I do want to say we still serve those underserved communities, but for the CPRCs, there is a focus, and many times those CPRCs are in the communities that are underserved. So they have a better, tighter connection and engagement within those communities. And then a little bit about our staff. So we are actually called information specialists. And anybody that's familiar with the Ohio Coalition might have heard us be called advocates. We've heard that term used a lot. That is actually not our title. A lot of people are very surprised to learn that. Advocacy is what we do and what we teach parents to do, but we are not advocates. We are actually information specialists. We are trained in the federal law and the state operating standards, and it's our responsibility to inform parents, guardians of their options under IDEA. We are not advising them. We are not attorneys. So this is something that we usually get a shock factor on, that we're actually called information specialists. And we are transferring that knowledge to parents as we are doing that. Any questions in the chat so far? Let me just pause. I've been doing a lot of talking. Or comments in the chat yet? You guys, we're going to fly right through this then.
We don't have anything in the chat yet.
Okay. Well, they're wanting some extra time in their day. So with that being said, I will go ahead and talk a little bit more in depth about how we assist parents. So we help parents to make good, informed decisions regarding their child's education and to become active participants in the process. We've also included a handout. So this is in the handouts in the link. It's a document called How OCECD Can Help You. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pause and take a little time on that. If you can't pull it up on your computer, that's fine. You can look at it afterwards. But I've also provided, or we have also provided that to you in Spanish. How OCECD Can Help You really gives you a breakdown step by step. This is very helpful. So if you are a parent or you want to share this resource with parents and you're in Ohio, this is a breakdown of how we work with parents. And it really kind of gives you, we don't have to follow these steps, but it's kind of really good guidance on when that call comes in and how we handle that call. And so typically we start off with technical assistance, listening to the parents, finding out, what the concerns are, what the issues may be. And most of the time, sometimes the parents are coming in just wanting information and then going, and we're sending them resources. Sometimes, we hear that there are issues and we need to go and do a deeper dive. So we will have them send us their IEP, ETR, any supporting documentation that we can look through. And so usually we're going through that. Then the second step might be we're setting up a parent meeting to go ahead and go through those documents, discuss their concerns, and then see where the parent wants to go from them. We are guiding them through that process. We're giving them a lot of options. They are choosing how they want to go. We are just supporting that. So really just taking them through that. We let them know if we do attend a meeting with them, that's another surprising bit of information I think that parents and professionals get as well when we tell them or when we present this training to them, is that we don't always attend IEP and ETR meetings with parents. That is actually one of the last things that we do, because our goal is to try to get the parents to resolve those issues with our support as much as they can on their own. And we know that it might be needed at the beginning sometimes for us to come in, but our role is not to just attend every IEP meeting and ETR meeting with them. So that is something that I always like to mention. And most importantly, we are not attorneys or advocates. Did I leave anything out, Elizabeth? Probably not. That's okay. I think we got all of it. It's okay. We're good.
I was going to say, yes, you definitely covered it. And I just want to point out, Max did put in a link for the How OCECD Can Help You on the chat. The Spanish version will be forthcoming as well, so that you can share it as well. Now, we get into the multicultural programs because, again, we're talking about engaging all families. And what's unique is that the Ohio Coalition does have Spanish-speaking multicultural staff that are information specialists that give support to families who do not speak English. So we have Spanish, and for personally speaking from the Spanish culture, when I'm able to support families, there are different barriers that are, as we've mentioned, unique. So when we provide these services to our families, we are including services that include a cultural perspective. What I mean by that is, I'll give you a great example. Culturally, when you're 18, you don't move out of the house. My Cuban parents said, what? You stay close to us. And here we have to talk about, first of all, the IEP. We are talking about independent living as early as 14. And that's something that's usually not the forefront in the conversations for some of our families. So it's important to have those conversations and see what that may look like. We need to think ahead and let's plan and how we can best assist that. And whatever that may look like, it doesn't necessarily mean outside of the home, group home. It's just, let's have that conversation so we can address it early on. Then we talk about language support that is unique to the families. Oftentimes, yes, we may be provided an interpreter for meetings, but we're talking about, again, diverse needs. That's reading skills, writing skills. As Tammy mentioned, on that initial phone call, we build a relationship with our families. We definitely try to get to know where they're at and meet those needs exactly at that point. So some families show up and say, hey, I speak a little bit of English. I understand, I can follow along. Or I only read, I can see it in writing and I can follow along, so I don't need it in Spanish. And that's where we go, wait, to be truly an active participant, you do need it in Spanish. You want to be comfortable with it. You want to make sure that you understand all aspects. And that's where that empowerment comes in. And again, that I'll bring it just right back because it makes a great point to that cultural perspective. Oftentimes growing up, our parents may, and again, speaking personally from my experience as a Hispanic from Cuba, we trusted the educational system. And not to say that we shouldn't, but meaning we can't question. We can't ask questions, whether they're great questions or whether they may lead to some disagreement or that we don't agree with. We don't necessarily feel comfortable saying, hey, we're part of the team. That's the best way to put it. And it's having those conversations. Yes, let's ask questions. You want to learn. You want to build that relationship where the communication is fluid, not just, hey, this is it because that's it. The school says it, and that's what it has to go. No, you can ask why. Let's learn about it. Keep me informed. Let's check on the progress and things like that. Then we talk about providing services such as ELL supports. Obviously, when we are English language learners, our students may need different supports when we're talking about what that may look like. A lot of our families may not necessarily know, okay, well, I know my child is learning English. What does that look like in the classroom? And now how does that impact when we add another layer of special education? How does that look like in the IEP? How does that look like in support and services? What is the test? What does that define for my child, and how can I best support them? That's the great part about being able to provide those extra layers in Spanish directly to the parent. And then we continue to provide supports just like the English-speaking community with trainings to engage and empower our families. Again, we don't advocate for them, but we want them to have the tools. That's also important to note out. We aren't translators, so we do speak Spanish with our families, and we do go over documents that are sometimes not translated. But again, it's providing that knowledge. So let's look through this. Let's talk about it. What does this document mean to your child specifically? And what is the next step if we have to take one? And the majority, one thing that is so fantastic about the coalition, we do provide translation to most of our trainings and documents, and we also work closely with other agencies to be able to provide that to other parts of the communities and other organizations as well. Tammy, please jump in as well.
Oh, yes.
In case I did miss anything.
No, you have covered it very well. I will just say that while I was not born in Cuba, obviously you can tell that. But I am going back and going back to school and taking Spanish, very humbling for me. And my Spanish teacher had just shared with us that when we were talking about formalities, and when we call somebody, like in our language, Mr. or Mrs., and the formalities, how it was, and she just actually echoed what Elizabeth said. She said her doctor, who's much younger than her, tells her, stop, you don't have to, you don't have to be so formal. And she said, no, you're my doctor. So the level that we from other countries and how they see professionals is also very much weighs into those diverse needs for our families and how they see professionals. Did I hit that right, Elizabeth?
Yes, and you brought up a great point because it's breaking that perspective of questioning means an issue or a conflict, when it's not. It's open dialogue. It's that comfort level of changing the perspective of that the school and the parent are two separate identities when it should be a team. Just because I question, I want to learn more, and I want to see how I can help, doesn't necessarily mean that there's a disagreement or a conflict. And that's unfortunately where a lot of the families may be at. Hey, if I ask a question, they might think, or they might feel, and no, it's a team effort. Let's have those conversations, and let's build that relationship and work together for the good of our child.
And I love that. And I think that's a good takeaway for the professionals that are here today, to the more you can reach out and let them understand, or not let them understand, help them to understand, and let them know they are part of the team. That could start helping to break down some of those barriers, and allowing them to feel that way will start facilitating them feeling that, that questions are good. Questioning, and there's a difference between questioning and questions. So as much as you can support that as a team, that's great. So just wanted to add that. Okay. And with that being said, we take that right into great segue in to the parent perspective. And as you heard at the beginning of this, we are parents ourselves. So I either a family member of individuals with disabilities or a parent. And as you heard, I am a mother to two, and I always have to stop myself because they went ahead and grew up on me, which they tend to do. You have to make that shift. You have to make that shift. And I have two young adults, individuals with disabilities. So even though I am in the professional, this is what I do professionally, I am also a parent, and we know many parents play both roles as well. But always having that parent perspective, that we can bring that unique personal experience of having a child or a family member with a disability, that is really at the core of how we are able, when you are able to connect. And I know we've heard a lot of things like, your tribe, but when you are able to connect with somebody, there is a comfort in that. There is a comfort in knowing that you haven't went through it alone, or you're not going through it alone. That one of the biggest things I always get is when a parent calls and says, "Oh my gosh, it wasn't just me. I'm not just making all this, I'm not making things bigger than they should be." Just always making sure that they understand that their concerns are always valid, because at the end of the day, sometimes it might not even come out the right way. Sometimes in team meetings, we know they don't always look like, we don't have Skittles and rainbows in all those meetings, but, we also know that at the end of the day, we all have the best interest of that child. But as parents, that is a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is what we are doing all day, every day. So being able to have that perspective and to hear a parent feel that they are validated, and knowing that we are able to support that, is really at the core of what we do. And I know too, when we take that cultural perspective, and being able, when we're talking about supporting all families, having that cultural perspective and having our multicultural staff being able to play that role for parents is also huge. Elizabeth?
Well, I just wanted to add as well, not just thinking about the educational part, going above and beyond to the community, connecting to those resources. So sometimes being a parent, you're able to say, hey, I experienced this with my child and this agency was helpful, or these steps were helpful in the community. So that's also a great connection that OCECD is able to have to families and say, these resources were useful when X, Y, and Z, and we're able to build those partnerships across the community. And again, I know I've been repeating it, that teamwork, that collaborative, but it really is just like every child needs a village, every family needs a village to be able to support that child. So it's such a unique perspective that we're able to provide to, again, all families.
Well, and I don't think you're repeating yourself, because I think that's why we're here today. It's about relationships and engagement. I mean, it always go, and Elizabeth, I'm going to steal your quote. You always say it's all about relationships. Mm-hmm. And it is, because when you have those relationships, that's where those barriers are broken down. That's where trust is built. It doesn't mean that disagreements are off the table. It just means that we have a relationship and actually a good platform to be able to have disagreements. I would say,
yeah.
That's
you're more comfortable to sit in that discomfort.
That's, I guess. No, I like that. That's perfectly said. So, really bringing in that parent perspective and that cultural perspective is at the core of what we do. And so with that being said, here's a little bit of our, just to let you know, we said we are the Parent Training Information Center for the state of Ohio. And so we have our executive office, which is in Marion, Ohio. So full disclosure, I didn't know there was a Marion, Ohio until I worked with the Ohio Coalition. And let me tell you about my experience. I am from, as you heard Max said, I used to cover Cuyahoga County. I worked in Cuyahoga County for many years. This is where I grew up, and Northeast Ohio. So if anybody's from around that area, they might understand my shock in driving through Marion, Ohio. So I always talk about, and I remember seeing the only probably payphone I've ever seen in this day and age in Marion, Ohio. So, but Marion has a lot to offer. It was a culture shock for me. So
it's just different.
Just a little bit different from what I've experienced. And so it did give me a clue into why, when I tell people I was from Ohio, they thought, they always had this image of, cornfields. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I grew up in Cleveland. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So we have one executive office in Marion, Ohio, and 15 regional offices throughout the state. That includes our multicultural information specialists. And our information specialists across the state of Ohio typically serve families in their geographic region of the state. So where you see all those little GPS symbols in there, and we've also included that. So you won't leave today without having information on who to contact or who to put parents in support with. If there is a link in there, it will give you the link to all of our staff, including our multicultural information specialists. So if you have any questions, and then you can always reach out to our Marion office, and we have an intake referral specialist that can put you in contact. I also want to mention that we do also, we know and had previously had for many years a relationship with our parent mentors. We still do, and we always make sure that we include parent mentors in the conversation with parents, because if they are in a district that has a parent mentor, we encourage them to reach out to their parent mentors first, because we are covering an entire region. And so if we can connect a parent with them, that is somebody that's in their district, who knows the ins and outs of their district, who has those relationships. And we talked about that. That is very important, to be able to connect the parent to those people. So we always encourage parents, if you have a parent mentor in your area, please reach out to them. And we still, while Ohio State does have, I do believe the parent mentors have their own website, we still do house their information on the coalition website as, just as additional information. So when you go in there and you look for our information specialists, we also do have a connection where you'll be able to look and see if there are also parent mentors there. So I just wanted to add that. Did I leave anything out, Elizabeth?
No, you did a great job. And while we're talking about here we go. I was going to jump ahead. My internet's being a little tricky, but I was just going to say the trainings on the website, but take it away.
Yes. Oh, okay. So these are we have a list of our supports and services. This is not an exhaustive list, but I am just going to touch on a few areas of our current programs. We do participate in web conferences with PACER and PACER Center and partners from 2 other states on what's called Project Launch. So what we do on there, it's an online space for sharing information and resources, determining service gaps, and individual assistance is provided to those seeking information. So that's families from diverse communities, I apologize, from diverse communities, professionals, youth in regard to transition or related services. We also have workshops on transition for employment that are presented to students. And then also OCCD has presented workshop Without Walls. So those are presentations to culturally and linguistically diverse individuals in Ohio. We also are working together with ODH, the Ohio Department of Health, the Joint Commission on Infant Hearing and Early Detection and Intervention Program. So we began working with ODH through that Joint Commission. And we contact families of newly diagnosed newborns and infants who are diagnosed as hearing impaired in order to connect them with enrollment into Part C into early intervention services. So this not only lets families know that there are services and supports available to them to address their needs and those of their child, but that there will be someone who will be able to guide them through the process to obtain support and locating resources. Did you want to add anything to that, Elizabeth?
Yes, we also contact families who have been referred by the hospital. So there is no diagnosis, but we definitely encourage a follow-up. So some families may not necessarily have a child who has a diagnosis, but we recommend, hey, go ahead and follow up in case that there is and how we can support them through that process.
Thank you. And I know there's many others on there too, so I'm not going to read like all of those to you, but I do have one more that I will talk about and that's our Speded Grant. So that is funding from OCED to assist state education agencies and their partners to reform early intervention, educational, and transitional service systems to improve the results for students with disabilities. So, there is some of the ways is through professional development, technical assistance, dissemination of knowledge about best practices that are shared throughout districts. And the SPDIG activities, or the State Professional Development Grant, will provide systemic supports to increase and extend evidence-based early language and literacy instruction. So just wanted to share a little bit about some of those services and supports and those grants and programs that we provide. And then this last slide talks about tools that are used to provide assistance. And so I covered a lot of that in the beginning when I told you how OCCD can help. That's through that one-on-one consultation, phone support, trainings, either providing the trainings ourselves. We have statewide webinars. We do individual trainings. We do group trainings. We also provide our It's My Turn and GPS trainings, which are a 3-day self-determination curriculum that we actually go into the schools and do in partnership with the schools or with educational service centers, whatever that looks like, or a different agency. we come in and we provide that 3-day self-determination curriculum. We also, during the pandemic, as everybody else did, is we provided opportunities to do that virtually. We also send out our quarterly newsletters, our bilingual materials, very important. I don't want to steal your thunder there.
And trainings.
And
materials
trainings.
And trainings. We definitely want to, again, engage all families, whether that's virtual, phone, in person, whatever it is that fits best for their particular style of learning. Yes, and then we have our website. If you do have a second, go ahead and check it out. We have incredible resources. We are definitely continuing to post trainings coming up to share with families. A family doesn't necessarily have to be working with us to be attending a training. So that's also important to share. They might want to check us out, see what we can offer, use a resource, learn more about it, and then contact us. That's completely fine. But just because they aren't directly working with us doesn't mean they can't attend. So I would definitely encourage all families, all professionals to check out our website. And one great tool is that we are able to translate it, not just in Spanish, but various languages, so that you can look through it and see what you would want to check out and use for your child, or definitely learn more about, and then take that step to contact one of us.
Yes, perfect. And while we were talking about the website in various language, we also we have our Facebook, social media. So we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I also think we have a Pinterest as well. And we also have a Facebook group for Spanish-speaking families, Planeo. So that is exclusively for Spanish-speaking families. And we, continue to do outreach and meet the needs of all of our families. As that becomes necessary, we will provide those supports. I think we covered a good portion of that. If I didn't leave anything out, I'm going to move on. Is that okay, Elizabeth?
You're good.
Okay. So just, summarizing here, and obviously I cannot read the screen, as you see I'm going in, but just summarizing, we are very happy that we were able to provide you with this information today. We have up on the screen, you can see that's our executive office. If you want to reach out, I shared with you, we have a referral specialist. If you are looking for support or training, she can put you in the right area. And I think we have our website that Elizabeth was talking about right there as well. I think we've done a good job of getting it done within our time frame.
More than enough. Max has put on the chat
Yes.
as well our website, so that's easily accessible.
Awesome.
The different documents that have been mentioned throughout the training. So thank you for that, Max.
Yes, thank you. Well, with that being said, I am going to go ahead and say thank you all for attending today. We are so happy that we were able to be invited and engage with you today. And we hope that you walked away with some resources and support, whether you were a parent or a professional. So thank you again. Elizabeth, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Max, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Tammy. I'm wondering if anyone in the audience has any question for our presenters, any thoughts, reactions?
I see lots of thank yous, and you are more than welcome. Oh, we just have a grateful bunch today. They're quiet and grateful, and I love it because it's Friday. Okay.
Thank you. So maybe I can close us up here if we don't see any more, if we don't see any questions coming up. All right. So just 1 second. All right. So okay, I already see people thanking our presenters in the chat. So so the next session will begin at 2 o'clock. And I have a couple of reminders before we all go to break. So if this is your final session for the day, please be sure to take our survey by following the link that I am putting in the chat now. Just 1 second.
I think I see one question.
Oh.
Do you also work with families on 504s? Yes. Or just IEPs? Absolutely. That's a great question. Yes, we work very closely with families that either are 504s, IEPs, or even in the evaluation process, or not even in the evaluation process. They simply suspect they have questions. So various families, depending where they're at, we absolutely work with them. Some families say, hey, I just have a question regarding the progress of my child, and what can I do to work together with the school? What are the next steps to get that communication started? So absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you so much.
Really good, great question. I think I can add to that too. And you had mentioned sometimes it's before when it's just a suspected disability, and sometimes it comes out of, unfortunately, it could be a situation where there was a suspension or behaviors were coming into play, and they're reaching out trying to get information and discovering that they don't even know that there is a suspected disability. Maybe at that time, because of the events that are going on, there becomes, it comes from maybe a situation where they didn't think that there was a disability. So we meet parents wherever they are at in that process. So yeah, I think that's a great question. I hope we covered it for you.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Stephanie, and thanks for the answers. That's a good reminder that I need to practice on my waiting time. We almost missed that, but I'm glad that we was able to cover that.
Yeah, good eye, Elizabeth.
They were quick.
Thank you for spotting that. Yeah, so again, you can complete this the survey. We ask that you only take the survey once. So please do not take the survey until after the final session that you're attending for the day. Surveys will be used to administer contact hours. So it is critical that you take the survey if you're seeking credits. Again, the next session will begin at 2 o'clock, and feel free to keep the conversation going on Twitter using the hashtag breakthrough22, and visit ohiofamiliesengage.osu.edu/summit for all information about today's event. Again, thank you so much, Tammy and Elizabeth. We appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
We were happy to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.